I continue my introduction to the philosophy of nature, and I will comment on the prologue of a book on modern physics. The author says that the purpose of physics is to determine the fundamental laws which rule the universe and its evolution. So Hegel says that within the logical sphere, to go forward means to go backward, because the more you progress, because logic is a circle, so the more you progress, the more you go back into the root cause of everything, and that's what modern physicists unconsciously do. By the progress of science means to go ever deeper into the fundamental causes and grounds of all things, the beginning of all things. So it's a progressive movement, which is also a regressive intellectual coming back to the fundamental cause of all things. He says that this theoretical activity enables us to have a knowledge of the past, present, and future. He says that physics answers questions such as what is matter, what is light, why don't we cross or go through walls, why is the sky blue, why are there colors, why is the earth round, why is there lightning. And I remember Richard Feynman saying that if you really want to understand a physical phenomenon, you have to be able to at least produce 5 convincing causes to explain this phenomenon. Otherwise, you don't really understand. But that's quite complex. But he says that all the answers to these questions are contained in one sentence, and this is magical. He says, from atoms to galaxies, there are 2 fundamental forces, gravity and electromagnetism, and the purpose and the aim and the struggle of modern physics in the 21st century is to unify these 2 forces, plus the strong and weak interactions within atoms. And yeah, he says that in the quantum level, the questions where and when lose their meaning, and quantum physics teaches us that when we speak about light or matter, to wonder whether light is a particle or a wave is beyond understanding, and that's a play with word, because the understanding is what is dualist, and speculative Hegelian logic teaches us that A equals A is not a true law of thought, because if you say a tree is a tree, God is God, or a light particle is a light particle, you are not expressing anything. You need to introduce difference within identity, and this is the entire process of the absolute. So the truth about light is that light is neither a particle nor a wave, and it is both a particle and a wave. And when you understand that at the quantum level, it's just a reflection of the eternal logical idea that A is not A, and it is both A and not A, and neither A nor not A. And the truth of identity and difference is that they are identical. So this is a fundamental determination of Hegel's logic and of the absolute, is that the absolute is identical to itself in its own difference from itself. And this is real identity. And we find this at the fundamental quantum level. He says that our body has no spatial definite limits. So if you are watching this video, you are a manifestation of the universal quantum field, and I am a manifestation of the universal quantum field. And we are interconnected because, strictly speaking, my body has no limit and yours neither. But we experience ourselves, when we do not think correctly, as being limited. But strictly speaking, through thought, we are infinite. Namely, that our being doesn't cease to be what it is in its otherness, and that's the true infinite, according to Hegel. He says that our world is strange and fascinating, and that the the nature of the scientific endeavor or the scientific activity is to observe, to modelize, to construct a theoretical model of that which you have observed, and then to experiment. And from a personal standpoint, I have questioned myself about the world. I have observed the world, the phenomenon of the world, the phenomena, sorry, of politics, economics, culture, demography, religion, and so on. And from this, I was inevitably led to Hegel, and I have come from the observation of the phenomena of the world. I have tried to elevate myself to Hegel's philosophy with my own intellectual limitation, which make me unable to understand the whole of Hegel because I am not intelligent enough. But from this elevation into the realm of pure thought, I have decided to descend back into, I never left, but that's symbolic, to descend back into the world, and now to observe through the mediation of my theoretical understanding and to experiment. And experience is painful, but it's also what makes you feel alive and which validates your own thoughts. So you have to find joy in suffering by proving that your ideas are correct, by experimenting your ideas. And this is the entire process of God. But that's another story. Yeah. He says, so yeah, this process is also that of idealism and empiricism. And Hegel says that real idealism must not deny the empirical facts of existence, but it must theorize the empire of phenomena. And real idealism contains within itself empiricism, and so a philosophy of nature, a speculative consideration of nature, must include within itself the empirical aspects of nature. You cannot have idealism separated from empiricism, but real idealism, because it's absolute idealism, contains within itself its own negation. So absolute idealism is also empiricism. And yeah. And this coincidence of the idea and the phenomenon is what Hegel calls Wirklichkeit. There's a difference in Hegel's logic between reality, Realität in German, and what could be translated as effectivity or actuality, which is translated as Wirklichkeit. And Hegel says that what is wirklich is vernünftig, that is rational, and what is real is just verständig, just rational in the mind of the understanding. But when the idea in the highest meaning becomes real, it becomes wirklich, and the phenomenon is a reflection of its essential determination, and that's mystical in a way, speculative. So yeah, I just want to say about that in the Platonic view, there was a difference between empirical reality and the ideal truth, which was the truth of the idea. So Plato understood eternal truth, but he left aside the empirical reality as being fake and lacking true being. And Aristotle, who is often opposed to Plato, Aristotle was more of an empirical, that's why he's praised in the Anglo-Saxon world as being the father of empiricism. But Hegel noticed that Aristotle's philosophy is actually speculative, because the difference between dynamis and energeia, which could be translated as potentiality and actuality, for Aristotle, what is actual or effective or wirklich, although he doesn't use the word, is the Platonic idea made manifest. So Aristotle does not reject the Platonic idea, but in the process of the development of spirit coming to consciousness of itself, Aristotle is the moment when the Platonic idea incorporates into itself its own negation, which is reality in the empirical sense, and becomes the unity of ideal and real. And this is true effectivity and Wirklichkeit. So Yeah. Um, he says that to produce links between the different phenomena of nature is to produce a synthetic and unified theory. This is the main challenge of modern physics. And yeah, to bring unity and to the diversity of phenomena is the purpose of modern physics. And um, yeah, so the modern atheist, rationalist, empirical physicists are unconsciously working to achieve God's purpose. Because strictly speaking, we are all the puppets of God, and God is the one transcendental self which controls and moves and determines everything. And the atheists are determined by God to be atheist, and this is what Hegel calls the trick of reason, is that they think that they are working against God or without God, but actually God is working through them and He's using them, but they don't know it, to achieve His own purpose. And this is the same of me. God is using me as a puppet to achieve His own purpose. And Hegel says that the only true liberation and true joy of existence among the suffering is to joyfully accept that we are all puppets of God, and that's it. So